Yo, what is good, dev guys? Welcome back. In this video, I want to start the process of tying this loading and saving system that we wrote in the last video to the rest of the cosmetic system that we're working on here. So I'm going to compile this. So currently as it stands, we aren't, and I don't know where my world is. There it is. Jesus. We aren't doing anything to store this data. We've written the code for it, but we aren't actually initiating that code to fire. So there's a couple of things that need to change with our UI. One, we need to tell our save system that we want to save whatever we're passing along through the UI. The way to do that is, one, we need to come into this icon, open it up, and then we need to also open up the character selection screen as well. In the icons graph, in this setup icon widget function, we actually want to pass the character body part slot through to this function so that we can store this inside of this icon. And let's go ahead and get that. We want this to be the body, or let's put this as the part slot. And we'll save this. So this part slot, we can also cache this as a variable as well. You can see I already have it because, of course, I've done these tutorials already. So let me delete this, and we'll set this as a variable here. So what this allows us to do is to pass the data that we will actually use in the rest of the system, because the way that we're doing this with the character selection screen, we're not using the same method as the pawn component, which we wrote to take in an array of those part slots and then convert those part slots to actual parts. Here we're just going right to the asset manager, getting these parts, and then we're displaying them in the widget to the player. So we actually don't know any of the slot data quite yet. But the good thing about everything that's being done is that all of the data is you can kind of see that all the data is accessible. We have in this part mesh, when we break this element here, we have the things like the slot in there. Inside of this data asset, we have the part type tag that we need for this struct, and we can actually just hit a make here, and so that you can see what I'm talking about here. So this right here has our, if we break this has our slot in it. This item right here, this has our part type tag. And then this value, I wonder if we can get its key. I can't, okay. So there's also the keys in here. The keys to the value here is actually the part name tag that we need. So if we were to I really hate Blueprint, bro, because it makes it to where, oh my god. Okay, so I'm gonna change this function up a little bit. I'm gonna change this function to iterate over these keys. So we'll break this up a little bit. My God. I'm gonna iterate over these keys in this array, and then I'm gonna use this key to find the item that we actually want to pass. And this allows me to keep the key, but also still grab the item. And we don't, yeah. So we'll hit find out of this. We want to find, and we can pass it this key. And this gives me the character body part structure that I need. And we can actually pass this here. This is the structure that we want to break. And this key is actually the part name tag that we want to pass through. This looks sloppy as, you dig what I'm saying? This would look so much cleaner in C++, but Lord, I just don't feel like writing a whole new UI class. So let's just do this. I am going to pull off another one of these just so it's not like all over the place, man. Jeez Louise. Okay, so we'll do the find from this guy here. Maybe this will line up a little better. There we go. Okay, so instead of iterating over the values, we'll iterate over the keys. That way we can have access to the key which is the part name tag. The item, it keeps the part type name tag stored on the actual item. And then of course we have the slot coming from the part that we find, and now we can construct that part slot that we need, and then we can also pass it the body part right here. So now we have all the data that we're going to need to pass through. So now we just need to kind of use that data. And in this item icon, whenever we were mouse buttoning down, whenever we were hitting our mouse button over an icon, we were actually calling this show new part. But what I want to do now is I want to show the new part whenever we hover over an icon, and then whenever we actually click the icon, I want to save the new part. So let's do, actually, let me undo that. We want to copy this entire line of code here. I'm going to copy this, take it to this on mouse enter event. If you don't have it, remember I did this on mouse enter event from an override here. I'm actually going to make the on mouse leave as well. Whenever we enter, we'll do this code right here to show the body part type. And then inside this modular character preview, I actually want to create a new function. So if we copy and paste this, we can create the same function declaration, or it'll have the same parameters, but we need to call it save new part. So save new part is going to take in the slot as well, and here we can just pass in this parameter as the new slot, and we'll look for that character body part slot. So this new slot is what we're going to end up saving in our game instance. If you remember, in the game instance, we made that save slot function. So we get our game instance, and then we cast this to our Lyra game instance. We can actually call that save a character part slots here. Let's pass that through there. And here, I'm gonna make this a variable, which you can see I have right here. Just promote this to a variable. And then we actually want to take the slot that's passed through to this function here, and we want to add it to this array. And one thing that I did wrong was when I converted the save system to a map, I didn't change the type that we passed in here to a singular item. I kept it as an array. But if I were you, I would change this to a single item instead of an array, because we really don't need an array. We're just passing one item in at a time. We won't be storing the items into a cache and then saving them all at once. I mean, you could do that, but that's just a little bit more difficult than just doing it one by one. But before we add this, I actually want to clear this array just so that we don't have old data in there at all. And then we'll add, and then we'll come over here and show the mesh that we want. And we need to pass this the slots to save here. So now we're actually going to be saving whenever we click. Let's put that function in there. So let's grab this is valid, copy this, go to the on mouse button down function. Oh, we kept it in there. So instead of doing the show new part, I'm going to go save new part, and we'll pass it the new body part, and we'll also pass it the part slot. And you guys will see that when we go into the actual playscape and mess around with these slots, what do we got? That's just some UI stuff. Okay, so if I hit play here, go full screen, I'll bring up my widget. It's doing some weird thing where it doesn't load on the first time. So if we hover over an item, you can see hovering over the item changes it, but if we click it, it saves the item. And I can verify this with you by looking at our file. So here we save the item. Let's go back, and I'm gonna actually escape out of this. If we go to the project files for this project, I think it's Unreal Projects, that's in Modular. We'll have this save folder, and we'll have auto saves game, parts mail auto.uasset. I think, no, that's not it, is it? Yeah, that's not, what's, so that just means that my save game is not working. So save new parts, Let me see if our save character parts slot is getting called. So let's put a debug marker right here, and let's see if that function gets called whenever we actually hit save on the slot. Oops, that's the wrong button. Press T. Let's do legs, torso. Okay, my debug marker didn't fire there, so there's something wrong in this function here. So we're loading the anim. Oh, I see why. This is not being called in the right spot. We want to save this even if it's, whether or not it's false or true. We want to do this regardless. This way it always will get saved. I probably should move this to the front, but I guess it's not a big deal. Matter of fact, yeah, because this looks so nasty, I'm going to move this to the front. And I'm gonna actually put this in a sequence. We'll do this first, and then we'll do this. Looks a little cleaner. And now we should get a breakpoint. Open up that widget. If we hover, it does nothing, but the moment I click, we go to the code here, and you'll see that we'll go in and we'll save these slots here. So you can see the slot is the part type torso.male. That's the type name tag, and then we got our part slot, which is the torso, and then we got our part name tag, which is the part torso.jacket. Right? You see that'll save. So if we just hit continue there, because I know that's going to work. If we stop this, and now if we go to the files and go to the saved folder, we got this save games here. We got this modular character save game right there. So that means our system is now saving our selections, and now we need to tie that into whenever we come into the game, we actually are able to play with the character selections that we want. So in the next video, I'll show you guys how to set up the system to load your saved selections and then also spawn in with those loaded character parts. So if you guys are ready for that, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.